Next item.
Next item, citizen participation. Citizens wishing to address the board on agenda and non-agenda items for action who are signed in by 7:10 p.m. by submitting a blue card to the board secretary may speak at this time. The board may not be in a position to respond to non-agenda items, therefore speakers should not anticipate an immediate response to their comments or questions. For the benefit of all concerned, do not mention the names of students or school district employees. Please keep your comments as brief as possible. There is a 3-minute time limit on comments made to the board.
Before we begin, what I want to let people know more watching from home than those that are in attendance is at last month's board meeting, there was misunderstanding between the comment cards. What the board advised the district to do was to make some changes so it's easier for us to differentiate those that wish to address the board in public versus those that just want to share their thoughts with the board. So beginning this month, there's going to be one card for those wishing to address the board with public comments and another one for those that just wish to address the board written. So please go ahead.
Can I just add that if it's written, that it'll be summarized?
Right.
First one is Kathy Martin, a community member, would like to come to speak to the board about the DFT contract.
Good evening. I'm happy to be here with a contract settled, and we're going to start the school year off on a happy note. I'd like to say that you guys have seen me speak before. I'm talking about what the mission of this contract negotiations was, and it was to retain and to recruit, and it was let us teach time, equity, accountability, compensation, health. And I feel like we solved a lot of problems with this contract. I think time was the biggest problem that we solved with this contract. We were able to provide teachers with more time to work on what they need to work on, as well as less outside of contract hours obligations. Equity and accountability. Equity worked well in that we're reducing the tiered sick days over the course of 3 years. All members will have an equivalent amount of sick days, which I think is very important. Accountability is something that we still need to work on. Compensation, I feel like we did okay. I feel our longevity is probably the best in the state. I've seen other districts' longevity, and usually it's not much. And I think we did a great job using that longevity to ensure that we retain teachers. It's going to motivate people to stay. Health, we're getting there. That's another thing that we need to work on, but you can't solve everything all at one time. So I do want to answer, you all have asked about what happens if early release isn't working. We actually have something in the contract that says the DFT and the district will sit together 3 times a year to reevaluate the process and see what needs to be adjusted. We understand that there are a lot of big changes taking place this year, bigger than whatever I've seen in my 20-year career. So as with anything new, we're going to have some hiccups, we're going to have some issues, and I trust that we're going to be able to work through these issues and hopefully run the PLCs and run the early release how it's most effective for students and for staff. So we're going to keep listening to members, we're going to keep listening to parents, we're going to keep talking to smooth this out. And like Dr. Maleko said, we have a 5-year contract, so we have some time to work on this, and especially if we're meeting regularly to work things out, I have faith that things are going to be okay. So today I was here meeting with new hires, and the room looked very different at 8:45 this morning. And I will tell you, at least 5 people came up to me and said the reason they're here is because they saw the contract. One of them is a spouse of a current member, and she was telling him what was happening, and he's like, I need to get on board. I've had people reach out to me throughout the summer, people I do not know from other districts who have friends who work here, and this contract has brought people in. So we problem solved pretty well, I think. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, employee Alarini would like to come to speak to the board about the DFSE contract.
President Thorpe, Dr. Maleko, trustees, good evening. I'm here this evening to say thank you. Thank you for your continued investment and your support for the non-instructional employees of our district. Recently, we ratified our tentative agreement with a 92% margin. Now, we have over 40 classifications in our bargaining unit, and to get that kind of broad support, I believe there were a couple of reasons for that. And I'd like to address a couple of them. Excuse me. I have to give a lot of credit to Dr. Maleko and his bargaining team. His team met with all of our employee groups individually. Now, we grouped them together so it wouldn't be too long and tedious, but they met with each of the major groups and listened to the employees themselves, not to me, not to my bargaining team, but to the employees. And as a result of that, they were able to understand what these employees do on a daily basis and understand the job that they do, which is specifically different from the other classifications. The other thing was the manner in which negotiations occurred. My bargaining team was made up of employees who had never bargained a contract before. And of course, they had a great deal of trepidation coming into this, not knowing what to expect. I told them not to worry, but when we sat down with the district's representatives, the district's team, the team made us feel like partners. And that set everyone's mind at ease. And as a result of that, we were able to focus on one simple question. What can we do together for the children of this community? And I think with that goal and with everybody feeling like partners with each other, it made negotiations a lot easier. So again, I want to say thank you. It's a 5-year contract. I'm looking forward to working together on future things and doing good things together. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Next, parent, community member, and employee Muna Masara from Dearborn would like to come to speak to the board about the contract.
Hi, my name is Mona. I'm an employee and also a parent community member. I just wanted to really get up here and talk about our contract. As we've said before, our slogan was teach, time, equity, accountability, compensation, and health. And our goal throughout negotiations was to ensure that this is, member-driven and that we're solving problems that members have brought to us. And I think we were able to do that, and we were able to really bring a contract that I think is going to change the way things operate in Dearborn for the better. And I'm proud of that contract, and I'm really proud of the amount of member engagement that we had, the teacher voice that we had, and I think that was key to the entire process. And so I wanted to thank all of the teachers and the educators and the support that we had, and the input that they really were able to provide to drive the negotiations and to drive the solutions that they really wanted. That's all.
Thank you very much.
Next, employee Michelle Saburin would like to come to speak to the board about the elementary special schedule.
Good evening. I'm a little less celebratory tonight. My name is Michelle Sabrin. I'm an elementary art teacher going on my 6th year in Dearborn and 6th year at my current school. And I want you to know that I'm hurt. I feel insulted by the thoughtlessness of the new schedule for special area teachers. This is how it will affect me personally. After building relationships with students for the past 5 years, I'm being moved out of my art room and out of my building. I'm being split between 2 new schools, and I will very likely be teaching from a cart at least one of the new locations. All of this occurred without a single conversation with me. I'm not inflexible. Teachers, all of us, bend over backwards to do what is best for our students. But is decreasing specials instruction and splitting teachers across multiple buildings really what's best for students? How will I deliver quality instruction in painting, ceramics, and printmaking pushed into classrooms on a cart? How will I build relationships with students in school communities when I'm only at a school for one day? How will I teach more advanced multi-step lessons to our upper elementary when I only see them one 45-minute period a week? These are just some of my questions. And yes, split schedules and carts have been going on for a long time before this schedule. And it wasn't okay then either. I was hopeful for change. Last year, after teaching through some extremely challenging pandemic years, I decided to go part-time and teach 3 days a week. I needed to take better care of myself in order to be better for my students. And I was better. I think last year was my best year yet. With more time and energy, I further grew my relationships with students. I planned more engaging lessons. I took art courses to build my own skill set. I organized a 5th grade field trip to the Detroit Institute of Arts. I happily wrote lesson instructions and sent materials home to the parent of a special needs student who loved art but was unable to attend art class. I displayed and celebrated student artwork in the hallways and online, in addition to preparing for the citywide art show. By district and state standards, I was rated highly effective. I was so excited to do all of these things and more again this year. But now, instead of feeling excited for the new year, I feel deflated. The special schedule as it stands makes me feel undervalued and demoralized. I feel set up to fail, that is, to fail our students. I love teaching elementary art. I love introducing students to new artists and new materials. I love how students light up when they've created something all their own. I love that students who struggle in other content areas excel and gain confidence in mine. I know the value of what I do and the value of what all specials teachers do. I don't want to leave, but I'm asking you, why should I stay? Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Next, parent from Dearborn, Bree Rafferty, would like to come to speak to the board about reduction of special instruction in the tentative agreement.
I'm going to talk fast because I have a lot to say and I want to get it all in. So just, I am aware of how fast I'm speaking. Good evening. One second. My name is Bree Rafferty, and I'm a parent in the district as well as a music teacher entering my 7th year with Dearborn, my 12th year teaching. And tonight I'm here to advocate. I am here to advocate for the 1st grade ESL student who's acquiring vocabulary in the music classroom through repetition of their favorite songs, movement that's helping them make meaning of this new vocabulary, and who feels more safe practicing their new language, singing with their classmates than speaking alone. I'm here to advocate for the student who struggles. Sorry, I lost my place here. I'm here to advocate for the student who struggles to focus in the traditional classroom environment, but thrives having a structured physical outlet for their energy in PE. I'm here to advocate for the student who is below grade level in reading, but loves building and excels at engineering, and who gains confidence through his relationship with and opportunities provided by his STEAM teacher. I'm here to advocate for the student whose family is in crisis and is able to most effectively express their emotions and find peace through creating visual art. I'm here to advocate for all of the students who find connections, communities, and confidence in art, STEAM, music, media, and PE. The new Tuesday early release time is intended to better serve students by affording time for more teacher collaboration. However, students are in fact being served less because time in valuable classes, and the classes that I just named above, their specials classes, has been significantly reduced, in some cases from twice to once a week in exchange for the PLC time. The 90 minutes of early release time in the new schedule was taken directly from our student specials area classes, and this is a huge disservice to our students. The instructional time cuts to art and all the specials in the tentative agreement are not putting students first, not the whole student, not students who use these unique instructional opportunities to bloom into radiant, confident young adults. Our PD this week is on social emotional learning, and specials content areas offer social emotional learning by nature. We don't have to adapt our lessons or modify our curriculum to accommodate SEL goals. They do so by design. Our classrooms are the creative and physical outlets that our students so desperately need. Our curriculum fosters self-expression and team building. Our lessons allow for the movement and connection that our students crave, and we're reducing their time in these classes so that they can go home and for many sit on the screens that have caused them to be so deficient in their social emotional skills in the first place. That is not putting them first. I'm sorry. If you can't measure what you value, then you value what you can measure, which is test scores. But I'm advocating for students in Dearborn Public Schools to have an opportunity to engage in these special areas classes because they're called specials for a reason, and that's because that is exactly how our students feel in our classrooms. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, employee Cynthia Alvarado would like to come to speak to the board about the role of media specialists.
Thank you for this opportunity to address you. I have been part of the Dearborn Public Schools Media Department for over 25, I'm not even exactly sure how many, but over 25 years. And during that time, I've been in almost every school in the building. Now, I too have some concerns with the new contract basing on the special schedule. And overall, I think the new contract's a wonderful thing. And when I voted for it, I was like, yay, I will finally get to go to the PLCs. Because as a media specialist, the degree you get to be a media specialist is called Library and Information Science. So as someone who needs to staff, who needs to choose and curate the materials for the library, I want to be in those PLCs because I want to know what areas they need additional information. I want to know what the kids are going to be looking for. I also want to participate in that extension and intervention that they're talking about by providing multiple levels of materials for students that need them. And of course, there's also the information piece, which is the second part of my degree. So we've basically in many ways been sort of reduced to computer teachers on the spreadsheet anyway, that little slot where they do the special things. But honestly, our role is much bigger than that because we use technology to teach them literacy. We use technology to teach them how to find and evaluate information. We use technology to teach them how to organize information. We use technology to teach them how to choose reliable information. These are all skills that we have as part of our curriculum now. Unfortunately, under the new special schedules, half of our elementaries will not have a media specialist the first semester, and the other half will not have a media specialist the second semester. Now, as someone who's been in lots of media centers for lots of years, I know it takes at least a full year in a school to understand exactly what that media center needs and to understand what's in that collection. So I don't really understand how moving at the semester will allow that to happen. I'm overjoyed that we get to see kindergarten through 5 in elementary now because that's fabulous. That's like the best I could hope for. But I don't know how we can serve them well if we can only be there for a semester and then we have to go to some other school. We can only teach not even half of our curriculum because honestly, I have about 18 months worth of curriculum that I'd like to teach. I curate the best year's worth of it to get it into the school year. But I don't see how a semester in a school is going to serve our students well. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
Next, parent Z. Amin from Dearborn would like to come to speak to the board about the school schedule.
Good evening. Wanted to go ahead and thank everyone for being here and trying to implement and put together a schedule that's going to go ahead and benefit staff members with the Dearborn Public Schools. I've been a resident of the city of Dearborn for the past 37 years, which is my lifetime, and I have a child that is in the Dearborn School District as well. So as a realtor here in the city, I understand the breakdown of where our property taxes are going to, and I see that majority of it is going towards the school district, and I'm okay with that. As a realtor, I also see parents that are looking to move out of the city just so this way they can accommodate to a better education for their children. I know several who have opted to put their kids in private school. I think what parents are looking for is more transparency when it comes to making decisions like this, especially when we are now at a time where we have 2 full-time working parents trying to make ends meet, or it's a home that has a single working parent like myself trying to make ends meet. So this last-minute change in schedule that was given to us a week before the school, the school year starts, just kind of feels an unfairness to parents to go ahead and basically put together a schedule or to accommodate to this change in the schedule. I understand that a survey was sent out, but that survey was not clear on what you guys were trying to implement here. We're just looking for transparency with it and then some type of accommodations when it comes to, and I understand that you guys are trying to go ahead and put that into effect. We're just trying to see at what cost, being we are already living in a time of inflation, we're already paying relatively high taxes when it comes to our summer tax bill, just trying to make ends meet, trying to go ahead and, keep things in line for our kids, and we want to keep our kids in the school district. I'm a product of the school district, and I'd like to keep my child in that school district. I just want to make sure that parents are able to accommodate to that change, mentally and financially. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
And the last blue card, a parent, Crystal Paulson, would like to come to speak to the board about the calendar.
Before I start, can I do something real quick? Some of you may know what I did. Stop the minute, please. 3. Can you put it back at 3, please?
All the comments are 3 minutes. Sorry.
Mike, come here. I enrolled my son into Dearborn because my hands were tied. Since Mike was more than accommodating to help me out with my son's services, I held off on the birth certificate so I can show my commitment to the Dearborn District Schools. Because I haven't stopped yet, still here. So again, the calendar, okay? For me, as a mother of an autistic child of a kindergarten, I'm gonna use that calendar to my benefit because I have a plan. I always have a plan. But other parents in the district do not have a plan. There's plenty of special needs parents that do not have a backup. They do not have support. They do not have the answers that they need on what they're gonna do because they depend on the district. They depended on you guys during COVID, before COVID. Now after this, every year we're starting off on a bad foot. I'm asking you as an advocate, a parent that has not stopped, has literally been a thorn in your guys' behind for 4 years. Resend the survey. See what the parents have to say. Because again, I will remind you, you guys have to go out for a millage. You have to ask the taxpayers. That millage has to go to us. We vote on it, not nobody else. Parents should have a say. Parents should have transparency. That's the only thing we've ever asked for. Please respect the fact that some parents do have full-time jobs. I had to go back to part-time so I could be able to transport my son to school, to therapy. But like I said, my husband has a full-time job. He's also a business owner. So therefore, I was able to go part-time. There are mothers that are not able to. Now they're trying to figure out at the last minute what they're gonna do with their children. So, not gonna hear anything about the calendar from me, but as the parent standpoint, let parents redo that survey because I've talked to many parents that never received the survey. And I actually looked at it and the numbers, there were more people that were on the sex ed survey than there was this survey. Resend the survey. That's the only thing. And for the art teacher, this is my son's drawing that he did 2 weeks ago at ABA. I need her because my son is his skills, and he's autistic. What's gonna happen when we don't have our specials?
Thank you very much.
We are done with the blue cards. We have one card, Maze, that is for, they just want their comments summarized. It is
Okay.
from employee Hannah Ahman. I would like to say, how are we being equitable while trying to build on instrumental programs? Students need more music if we want a great program. And that was the only one.
Thank you very much. One thing we heard in several of the comments was about the scheduling for the specials. Dr. Malika, would there be anything that you would add or bring up on that item?
Yeah, sure. And I may call up Mr. Martin to join me with this, but I would say that obviously there's competing interests here. One of the things, and I know the music just came up, I've committed, in fact, I'm overseeing a committee to expand the music. So one of the things we did commit with the music program, we said no reductions at the elementary, and we have expanded the middle school, and we've maintained that additional staffing for another year to help. So last year, we really were focusing on the middle school. I think the committee that has gotten together said at some point we got to breach the elementary, but now we're in a situation where we have a new structure for the schedule, and so there are competing interests. But I will say we value the arts. We were just at that wonderful dedication over at Salina the other day, and some of us went when we got the music award from the city in the arts. So we definitely value, but it's challenging when you're implementing a new schedule. And it's unfortunate too that, the reality of our schedule is that there are going to be, because of the size of our schools, and I was an elementary principal and a middle school principal, and I was at a smaller school in Duval, and you do have staff that have to split between buildings. It's the reality of some of our situation, but I would say that we're committed to the music and the arts, and there'll be growing pains as we move forward, but we can sit down with the union and tweak things depending on how things work out, but there are always competing interests. So I don't know if you guys want to add anything to that on the specials. I know Mr. Martin's been working with the union. They've been talking, especially with this delay for the October. So I might as well mention that, President, if that's okay. That's why we delayed to October, because we understand, and I mentioned this earlier, for parents. In an ideal situation, we would have loved to have the calendar out, like I said, in March, February, but it didn't, because we were dealing with negotiations, and it's just what happened. So we apologize to the parents for that, but it's the reality of what we're dealing with. And so that's why we delayed it, understanding the hardship for parents and trying to collect more data. And then we've been full force working as to what extra childcare or extracurricular we can provide. So we do understand that. I don't know if you two wanted to add. I know you guys have been working hard trying to figure that out.
We'd just like to comment regarding the special schedule. First and foremost, I want to thank the teachers who took their Monday night to be here. I am a fan, and thank you all. I go way back with Cindy, and I am one of Bree's latest and greatest fans. Yeah, and I was her practicum student in media many years ago. So thank you all for being here. I just want to make sure that I point out, I want to share the history of what made us look at changing the special schedule. And I want to be very clear that we have not, and nor have we ever had any intentions of reducing any of the FTEs, the number of teachers that we have on staff for any of the special areas. So that has never been considered. When Kathy Martin received feedback from the informational meetings regarding the contract with the DFT, immediately I emailed her my written commitment that no teachers will be laid off as a result of this new schedule. So the last 2 years, we received many complaints from specials and through our collaboration with the union leadership about specials and their schedules, and that they were having missed prep time, or their planning periods were fragmented. So it would be like 10 minutes here, 20 minutes there, 30 minutes there. So it wasn't like a prep time that was a chunk of time where they can actually get things done. So that was a common concern that was brought to our attention over the last 2 years. Some cases, the specials teachers shared that they missed their preps, and so we had to make that right throughout last year. We also heard that there wasn't enough transition time because they were so scheduled back to back with classes, and so oftentimes what we heard was that there wasn't enough minutes between the classes leaving their classroom and a class coming in. And so we worked with the teacher leaders of the special areas. So each special area has a resource teacher. And so if we didn't speak directly to everyone in the departments, we were speaking to the teacher leaders of each special area. throughout the process. Mr. Martin will speak to the specials and the thought process behind designing it the way he did with the team. But also, it's really important, I have to say this, two things. One, the intention of changing the schedule was to remedy all the concerns we heard the last 2 years. In no way, shape, or form have we ever had any intention of reducing the number of teachers or sections that we offer to students. And you heard the competing interests, is that some buildings had offered music twice last year, some offered PE twice, some offered art twice. And so our intent and our plan, if anything, in the spring of last year, we actually hired 2 extra music teachers and 2 extra art teachers in anticipation of potential resignations to make sure that we started the year with full staff, full staffing for our special areas. And historically, we did not do that. We did that because we know that there's more teacher movement these days, and we wanted to make sure that we started the year with a full staff. So really, the intent behind the special schedules was good intent. It still is good intentions. And so Mr. Martin will speak to this, how the special schedule was intended to address some of the concerns that we got over the last 2 years. But I do want to put it out there that among our team, we talked about it earlier as well, we are more than open to just doing things the way we did last year with a special attention to some of those areas that they should have. They shouldn't be missing their planning periods. They should be having in a couple minutes between the classes, the transition in and out. We are more than willing to consider just doing what we did last year with the schedule, and then forming a committee of music, art, PE, STEAM, or media. Sorry, Cindy, media, of course. Having them come to the table with a couple elementary principals and work through a plan that they feel works best. It's really important that we have the principals as part of that process because scheduling is not as simple as it seems. I did ask Bree to join onto a Zoom meeting that we had on Friday afternoon, late in the afternoon, and within seconds she made herself available, which I really appreciated. Loved her idea, but I believe there was challenges with it from the scheduling perspective of an elementary principal, and I don't know the details of that. But I will say we are more than open to collaborating and working through this. Sorry, I said more than I.
That's okay. So the one thing I also wanted to point out is, so when you talk about offerings at schools for electives or specials, there's another word we use, equity, right? And having equitable access for all of our students to the same things across all of our elementary schools. The way the previous contract was built, the way that a size of our buildings are, that didn't always happen. It was pretty fragmented, and to Mason's point, the result was specials area teachers having broken up preps, traveling to different buildings during the day, us losing, I would say as a district, us losing some resources with that travel time. So when we started looking at the totality of the design, one of the gets was, how do we ensure common preps? How do we minimize travel? I think Kathy Martin said it best about the environment for teachers is really important. Recruitment and retention, I know, was something that Mason was really an advocate for as we were going through the negotiation process. And the model, although not perfect and not exactly as it was, provides all of that. Students would get PE, art, music, STEAM, and a split between media and music once a semester, and that's all K-5 students across the district. The FTEs would remain exactly the same from last year. We would not have teachers traveling from building to building. Teachers one day might be at Becker and the next day at McDonald, but during the middle of the day, they will not be traveling. Specials teachers would have a 45-minute prep every day. All the other teachers by grade level have the availability for a common prep. So when we talked before about PLCs, collaboration and time, right? And how do you build in structure for this work to occur if we want it to occur? So the model that was proposed, the model that found its way into the contract, was a model that can do that. But in order to do that, there are some things that have to change. So that's kind of it in a nutshell. Again, the vision is not to cut FTEs. I'm a big believer in all the specials. I know this group talked before about STEM apps at the middle school. That was something that we did last year. There is a STEAM initiative in the district. So growing that program was something that we wanted to happen. And it still honors, the current structure does honor, just in a different way, all of those specials, but it absolutely is different than what it was. But at the same time, it accomplishes and solves some of the things that Mason indicated were a constant struggle for how the previous structure was.
Trustee Watts?
So I'm hearing that we're not reducing the FTEs, but I'm also hearing, and I could be wrong, that this may, because we're taking into consideration the last 2 years of like these little things that are starting to add up, a couple minutes here, a couple minutes there, prep time, that because of perhaps those of the last 2 years, along with the early dismissal, is that we're reducing specials for our students. So I think, but also I'm hearing that perhaps that there is a possibility for a group to collaborate to see what would be additional conversations.
So
Am I incorrect?
So there's 270 minutes a day of specials instruction. That can happen Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. On the early release day, the DFT, we are collaborating on what that structure would look like. We do not want specials to lose any instructional minutes on that Tuesday. I feel pretty comfortable that we're going to be able to accomplish that or accomplish it at a minimal level, but we aren't there yet, at least where I can share that publicly. So.
Okay, I'll leave it at that. I just, as a comment, I do not want to see a reduction, though, I think, with our students of music and art and the essence. So I send good, positive vibes that we can somehow.
So just, and I'm not saying that there is, but just understand, right? And I think it was President Thorpe that asked about, as buildings are pursuing pilot initiatives, right? That comes at a cost of something else, right? So as a district, as you're developing your programming, there may be nuances that does impact some other things. STEAM across the district, which wasn't necessarily the standard across the district, will and does to a small degree impact some of the time, but the overall FTE and the overall time lost is pretty minimal.
Trustee Barry?
Yes. Anytime you have changes, there's always unintended consequences. And it's like in special ed, now for the first time I'm hearing about specials. So I'm very happy that these discussions are happening and we're going to make adjustments. And Dr. Malika, you mentioned that the committee to expand on the music. I remember a year and a half, I just want to point out, a year and a half ago, I'm pretty sure it was unanimous that there was a directive that we wanted music expanded at every level. So I'll just bring that out. We want to continue meeting in that committee, and
Yeah, we continue to meet.
we want to expand on the music, give more opportunities for our students at every level.
Without sacrificing other areas.
Well, but unless we've changed our position as a board, this is something that we said we wanted to see happen.
I just mean that the arts are also important and.
Everything is important. I understand that, and I've heard the words competing interest today, but unless this board's position's changed, which, speak up now if your position has changed, we don't want to reduce the music opportunities.
Trustee Barry, my memory from that was that we wanted to make sure that we were, I think some of the music programs in various buildings, we were seeing a reduction in that. So again, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it was to reintroduce it from the middle school to high school, but I don't remember if it was up or down, but it was to make sure that we were giving opportunity to some schools that
think it was
perhaps were
Creating
doing
more
a reduction.
opportunities for all students, creating more opportunities for all students.
The conversation that came up was primarily the middle school, because the middle school, the way the exploratory special area classes were run, or the electives, I'm sorry, in middle school, there, in some schools, for example, there was minimal to anything. So what we did is we created a consistent by adding staffing, and then we got with the high school teachers to create that enthusiasm, because the high school teachers had come before you and said that they weren't getting enough recruits from some of the buildings. So that's where the focus. The elementary didn't come up as much because the elementary really had a set schedule in the contract that really, until now we're tweaking it, right? But one of the things I can tell you, and the cabinet knows, I've always said, there's no cuts to music coming. The arts are important, and we don't want any cuts. So I've been pretty clear about that, including at the when it came up at elementary about potentials, that was thing. But we are going to be dealing with some changes. And I think what Mason said, look, we're always willing to sit down as change happens, but we are definitely committed to the music. And I think at some point, once they're ready, we would bring that, committee forward. And the committee even said too, initially there was some talk about elementary, but we had discussed that we really were focusing initially on the middle school through that committee. And I've been at all those different meetings, and it's a great group of enthusiastic teachers.
Thank you very much.